and welcome to NFP, KBLU's feature on local nonprofit organizations. On this episode, we'll be talking about several organizations. The Stepping Up program, which is a collaboration between the Reaud Honors College here on the campus of Lamar University and the Southeast Texas Nonprofit Development Center. Our guests are Kayla White, Executive Director of the Nonprofit Development Center, Maria Vallejo, visiting professor in the Reaud Honors College, and several students who participated in the program, Daisy Calero Estrella Balderas, Grace Roy, and Alyson Vu. Well, before we get started on this week's episode of NFP here on KBLU, I'd just like to thank everyone for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. As people can tell, we've got several guests though on this one, so it's not the usual host guest thing. We have a group, and it's important because the program we're talking about is relevant to having a group on this show. First, Kayla, as people know from NFP, Nonprofit Development Center, I wanted to start off with you talking about the Stepping Up program and also how it relates to Nonprofit Development Center.
This is a program that is a partnership between the Southeast Texas Nonprofit Development Center and the Reaud Honors College. And the goal is to promote community engagement and develop civic-minded leaders for the future. It really provides students with a service learning option, which is part of the Honor College's high-impact educational practice requirement, but it also allows the students to understand the significance of nonprofits in the community, and in turn, they have an opportunity to develop real-life skills outside the classroom, which will be incredibly useful as they enter the workforce. But they're also providing nonprofit boards with bright, enthusiastic student volunteers with fresh ideas and skill sets that can help advance the mission of the organization. It's really a unique program, and it truly aligns with our center's vision of building a community of strong nonprofits. And it's about the big picture and ways that we can help area organizations to develop strong boards so that they can continue doing their important work. We begin with the training session that our center provides to educate the students on the importance and expectations of board service. Then we host a mixer where the students and nonprofits meet and get to know one another. We then pair up the students with the nonprofits for a 9-month to 1-year board service opportunity. But, in many cases, we've seen students go on to serve as full-time board members, volunteers, or even join other nonprofit boards whose missions they're passionate about.
Fantastic. And kind of going from there, let's go into Lamar University and Maria, as a professor in the Honors College, can you talk about some ways that it does impact the students? And then we have several students here that are part of the program. If we can, we want to hear from them too. But I wanted to ask you that first, how the impact is at the university level.
Yeah, like they were talking about earlier, it is a high impact learning experience for them. But I think what we're doing in the Honors College is not only providing resources for honor pathways for them to develop and engage, high academics, but also move beyond that to give a more well-rounded student body so they could come out of this with not simply education, but community engagement, leadership, and a variety of other experiences.
Okay.
And I think this is an invaluable activity where they get to connect and work with their community. A lot of them are from the area, and it's sort of one of the stepping stones for them to learn about their community, help their community, and be some of those civic leaders. And I would like to kind of move this on and ask the students personally what their experiences are, because they are the primary components of this program. It's their enthusiasm that really pushes a lot of this successful connections with these nonprofits. So I will ask them what their experiences are.
Sure.
My name is Daisy Calero, and I was paired with the Garth House, which is a nonprofit that helps children that are victims of childhood sexual assault and their families, connect them with resources and providing things like forensic interviews and helping them partner up with programs like CPS to get, lawsuits involved if necessary. I've had a great experience so far. I met with my nonprofit during the summer. So they gave me a really good orientation to the building, who does what, the layout of everything. I also took the opportunity to sign up as a volunteer. So then I came back on a different occasion and I completed my volunteer orientation and I discussed the ideas that I would like to see with the volunteer coordinator. And so we were talking about a previous program that they had with local hospitals, teaching new families with newborn babies about sudden infant death syndrome and other things like having a baby sleep alone in the crib to prevent suffocation, things like that, and bringing that back. So we worked together and we got a good group of students, especially shout out to Med Life at Lamar because that was many of their students that brought this program back. And so that was my way of bringing my own personal interest to my role as a non-voting board member, because I am a nursing major, but a lot of those things that the Garth House does still aligns with my interests, like helping children, helping get people the resources that they need, and being able to work with everyone at the Garth House is super fun. They're always super nice and they have their dog Taffy that helps the families that are coming a lot of times in their biggest moments of distress. And they're able to come there and they do awesome things for the kids. They give them toys after they have their interviews and they really make the biggest effort to provide everything that they can, like with their annual gala, which I helped with. They fundraise a lot of their money through that event. And so it was interesting being able to go over the past 6 months and see how the planning has progressed, and being able to just give my input on that and participate.
Hi, my name is Estrella Balderas, and I was paired up with the United Board of Missions, also known as UBM. So, United Board of Missions is a Port Arthur-based nonprofit that kind of self-describes itself as a coalition of South and Mid-Jefferson County churches to work through the love of God to be able to help people reestablish themselves in their life. UBM, one of the main things that attracted me to UBM was kind of its longstanding history. It's been established since around like the mid 1960s, if I'm not mistaken. And it was honestly like this longevity that has been able to run as a nonprofit that really attracted me because they've been able to make a change since that long. So I wanted to be a part of the change that they're making. And some of the programs that they have right now, they've changed a lot since when they first started. So they've expanded to have a lot of programs. It includes Meals on Wheels, where they're able to provide assistance for elderly and people who are just unable to get out of their home to get 2 hot meals provided twice a week. And then they also have like back to school and back to work where they're able to provide like uniforms, work clothing, like maybe some school uniforms and some steel-toed boots, stuff like that, just so people can reestablish themselves in the workforce in their school life. They also have Power to Care, which is kind of like a union between energy and where they're able to provide emergency assistance for people who are unable to afford the utility bills. And then lastly, and one of my favorites is their annual Share Toy, where they distribute toys to families that are low income in mid-December. I was actually very fortunate to have been able to help out at the annual Share Toy this past December, and it was a lot of fun and it was super eye-opening. And it's honestly these volunteer experiences where I've been able to really understand what a nonprofit does and how they work and how they impact the people's lives around them. So two of the most notable volunteer events that I've been a part of include Bob Hope's uniform voucher distribution and then the Share Toy distribution, obviously. So at the uniform distribution and at the Share Toy distribution, I noticed that a lot of the people, especially around Port Arthur, that come receive assistance from the United Board of Missions are Hispanic, and they're mostly only Spanish speaking. And so being able to be a translator for them and being able to help them understand what UBM's mission is and how it's making an impact on their life was really important to me because I know, especially like growing up, I was low income as well. I had to receive aid from distribution centers, just like how UBM is doing to these families. And so it really means a lot to me to be able to help them understand what's going on, how we're helping them. And I honestly received a lot of inspiration to give back from when I received aid in that same way. So I hope that through the work that I'm doing, I'm also able to inspire people to want to also give back and help at these nonprofits like that. So that's how UVM has impacted my life. And I'm so grateful to be working with them right now. And I hope to continue working with them as a volunteer, as a board member, as whatever, just in any way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Hi, my name is Grace Roy, and I'm partnered with a nonprofit called Boots. And the Stepping Up program as a whole has just taught me so much, not just about how nonprofits work, but about people. And we went to a training that was mentioned where we talked about titles and codes and the businessy side of things, but I was interested, but my heart wasn't really in it until we started talking about the number of local nonprofits. And there are so many in the area, and that means that there are so many people who are like passionate about a certain topic. And that's what I didn't really understand until I got to interact with my board. Most, if not all of these nonprofits are advocates for groups of people. And the nonprofit that I have the pleasure of working with, which I said was Boots, which stands for Bringing Out Our Troop Sisters, they serve female veterans. And each of the Boots board members is a veteran, and each of them has a story. And they're passionate about what they do to provide sisterhood and support for each other, because they need it themselves. And so they understand what it means to want and need that support. And I was just blown away by their care for each other and the way that they genuinely are seeking to make positive changes, not just within their organization, but at a state level. And I was heartbroken to hear about their struggles with insurance and the VA and simply just getting the respect and gratitude that they deserve. But all of these things taught me a lot. And although my nonprofit has nothing to do with the medical field, I'm already learning ways that I can advocate for patients in the future as I seek a career in medicine. And each time I meet with my board members, I fall more in love with their cause. And although I am learning the inner workings of the nonprofit, I think I learn more about people each time we meet, because these women truly care for each other in a way that I think few people could understand. They feel for each other because they understand the hurt they faced as they served and the ways that that service continues to plague them. And I get to be part of a texting group chat for the board members, and I get to see how they support each other outside of the organization as well as in. They face grief together, lifting each other up in prayer and encouragement, and it genuinely inspires me and teaches me a lot about the kind of person that I want to be.
Okay, my name's Alyson Vu, and I was paired with the Watson Rare Native Plant Preserve out in Tyler County. They're dedicated to preserving the natural flora and fauna of the area, specifically Southeast Texas, and they're home to several native orchids, carnivorous plants, and recently they founded a new mushroom there called Cortineus watsonii, named after Geraldine Watson, one of the founders of the Big Thicket and the founder of Watson Rare Native Plant Preserve. The preserve is home to a museum dedicated to Geraldine Watson and her artwork, her stories, the books that she published, and all of the discoveries she made while working at Watson and birding. And what I've learned through working with them is, even though I plan to go in the medical field in the future, I've learned a lot about how much nature impacts the world and how much they all decide to work with nature. But on the downside of that, I see that since I can't go there, it's about 2 hours away. Instead of taking on that role like others can of volunteering there, instead I've decided to help them on imaging and how their booth setups work, because one of my interests is graphic design. So currently I'm working on a booth setup for them where they can sell their products and to get funding for all of their endeavors, getting more land and fixing their roofs and stuff like that. Even though I wasn't initially interested in what they decided to do, I feel like I've grown to love all of the flora fauna there, and it's just honestly one of the most amazing things I've ever done here.
I think it's great to be able to just, talk about all these nonprofits and the way that they're impacted by the Stepping Up program. And I thank all of you for being here on NFP. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
For more information about the Reaud Honors College and also the Stepping Up program, you can click the link in the show notes for the podcast. And remember, you can listen to NFP also on the air on Thursday mornings at 7:50 right here on KVLU. Thanks for listening.